Hey everybody, Tim from America the Conversation here. Today is not a normal episode because America is not very normal, now is it? We don't have a Speaker of the House. Jim Jordan is not going to be Speaker of the House. Since we recorded this episode, they've put up like 8 or 9 people who are also not going to be Speaker of the House. And so we'll see what happens this week. We also wanted to remind you that I do not trust this person, The Many Lies of George Santos. That season finale is this weekend, as well as the season finale of America the Podcast Presents Road Trip coming out next Tuesday. Subscribe to all of those shows on your favorite podcast feed, or simply go to America the Podcast Presents on YouTube, or atppresents.com, or americathepodcast.com, shwaymedia.com. They all go to the same place, and we thank you for listening. So now, on with the show. Hello, and welcome to America the Conversation. I am one of your hosts, Tim Phillippe, and with me, as always, is Andrew Turner. What's up, man?
I think I'm going to be House Speaker.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't shave today because I wanted to feel as disheveled as Jim Jordan feels, because he's not going to be House Speaker either, because he just lost his 3rd vote as of this morning on Friday when we're recording this. We're releasing on Monday, and he lost perpetually in all 3 votes by more than he lost before. Like, I think it ended on 25 voted for other, like Scalise Zeldin, which is a very cool fantasy name. Would love to find out who that is. Didn't even bother to look him up. But and McHenry got a few votes. McCarthy got a few votes, and then Jim Jordan got less than 200 this time. I think 190 something. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I know Hakeem Jeffries.
I mean, not far off.
But yeah, no, Jim Jeffries also might become Speaker of the House. We don't know. Like, I mean, he's Australian. So can he? Maybe not. But no, Hakeem Jeffries got 210. He had previously got, I think, 212, but there were 2 Democrats absent today. So yeah, that's where we're at.
I have 194 for Jordan on the list.
Oh my God. Count. So we lost by way more than he lost.
210 for Jeffries and 25 for other, which were all Republicans.
Mm-hmm. Like Republican. Yeah, they were all Republicans. I know there was 2, like I said, 2 Democrats that didn't show up, and then 4 or 5 Republicans that just didn't show up or didn't talk. I don't know if they're trying to hide their vote or just choosing to be absent or sick, blah, blah, blah.
Well, they can't vote absent or present, rather. They can't do that because that lowers the standard, and Jeffries eventually, because he's getting more votes than any Republican, would win, right? Because every time somebody votes just absent or present, I forget which one it is, but I think it's present. It lowers the threshold, right? Like, your vote no longer needs to count in the majority. It lowers the total majority if you vote that way. So if 5 or 6 Republicans even choose not to vote, they just choose to vote present, you could see a minority leader become Speaker of the House. Like,
which has never happened ever.
No,
ever.
No. But we've never had a speaker fired on the job ever. Dennis Hastert was a literal pedophile, and he wasn't fired by the Republican Party. I don't think Paul Ryan or John Boehner have a real win to their name, and they weren't fired.
Yeah.
The last person to even be popular as Speaker that was a Republican in their own party is Newt Gingrich, to my recollection.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because he impeached Bill Clinton, and that's the only reason he was popular. And
I think he kicked off this idea of like impeachment being a political process instead of and it's always been, don't get me wrong, but he reinvigorated that idea. Like the idea that impeachment is used as a political tool to wield, as opposed to a way to actually get a president out of office. But I mean, Jim Jordan is a unique case here, because I don't think that the Republican Party has ever been more fractured in my lifetime,
and less able to govern.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've always been pretty horrible at what they choose on how they use the levers of power.
Truth.
But I mean, and they've always been obstructionists, right? Like, at least since the Reagan era, at least since my birth, they've always been like, their main goal is to gum up the wheels of government and make it where it looks bad.
Their whole deal with Obama was to stop him. And Mitch McConnell said almost verbatim, we will be doing everything we can to stop any policy that Obama puts forth.
But that obstructionism was usually, as one would expect in politics, was limited to the other party, right? Like, when Republicans were in power and had the majority, most of the time they could get stuff passed. I didn't agree with that stuff 99 times out of 100. Maybe 1 out of 100 I did. But for instance, nobody complained at least verbally, no one like threatened to take down the speaker when Donald Trump passed like UBI for 2 months during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like no one was talking about socialism or like the increase to the budget then, because the Republicans were able to like stay lock and step. But now that they do not have this authoritarian daddy figure that's leading them, you know, I mean, they do in the Senate, I guess. Mitch McConnell's able to keep his people in check. But in the House and in the presidential race, they really don't have a figure. Their base is subscribed to Trump, but the moderates are getting tired of it.
Right.
What's left of them. And they are completely fractured on, do we keep up this idea that Trump is God King and we have to follow his brand of far right, vehement, angry, you know, vengeful politics? Or do we go along with what our donors and the rich actually want, which is us to criticize and destroy the Democrats, but in the end, just vote in the interest of the rich and never give the base any real red meat? I think the recent repeal of Roe v. Wade shows this, right? This is something, Hassan, the Majority Report, they talk about a lot. Like Roe v. Wade was always this golden calf for them that they were able to use for fundraising and to get people riled up at the local level. But now that they've got it, they realize it's very unpopular.
Yeah.
And it's caused a huge fraction in their party of like moderates who are like, well, I don't want to be held responsible as the person who, for the first time in American history, took away a constitutional right in my state. So I'm just going to shut up about this, or I'm going to back away from it. Or even in a few small cases, I'm going to go with the Democrats on this. They are victims
Nikki
of
Haley
their own
even almost went as far as to do that same thing.
Yeah.
She's like, we need to get over this. Like,
I mean, I think if you're not an evangelical,
2012.
it's very hard to not argue that women should have control of their own bodies, right? Because the only real argument against the idea of body autonomy for women is that that is a soul because my religious scripture says so and you're committing murder. That is the only reason to restrict abortion, is to think that when someone is murdering someone else, and that is a religious, there is no scientific evidence of a soul or consciousness even at a certain level. Yeah. And most states have a like 26 or 28, I forget which one, abortion ban already, like even liberal states. Like most people, I think almost like 75 to 85, maybe even 90% of abortions are happen in the first trimester before, you know, a heartbeat, before any of the stuff that goes on.
All the stuff they talk about doesn't exist. It's all straw man. It's all.
Yeah, late term abortion is simply happening for the health of the mother. Like that is when it happens, is that the mother and the child will die. And that's when they do that medical procedure, when a doctor and the people that are involved have made that decision. Not their priest, not a politician in their hospital room. It is a and you know what? If they want to have that conversation with their priest, great. But that priest shouldn't be talking to the politician. Like, this is a decision that is a hard decision for a lot of people. Some people it's easy for. That's one thing I want to say. There's a lot of people who say, you know, this is easy for me and I have this right and I deserve it. But some people, it's a very hard decision. Either way, it's a decision to be made by the individual. I trust American women to be able to make their own decision with their own bodies. Yeah. But it's something that the conservatives have finally got, and it is an example of them getting what they wanted and it only hurting their party, right? Well, the same is true happening now in Congress. The far right, the Tea Party, as we used to call them, the Reaganites before, the Freedom Caucus, whatever brand they want to go by now, have gotten control of the party. They hold it by its metaphorical balls, and they have a vice grip on it. What do we see from that? Continued obstruction now, just including on their side. Now we can't even have a House Speaker. And if we don't have a House Speaker, we can't have a budget. We can't talk about Israel and Palestine and what to do there. We can't talk about funding Ukraine's war. We can't talk about doing rent control, even though I don't think Joe Biden's going to, or doing infrastructure plans. Let's give him more.
Going to?
No, I just mean there's 1,000 different things that the House could be bringing up. You know, people like AOC, people like Ilhan Omar, like progressive leftist members of the caucus could be bringing up a bunch of bills, but we can't even do that because no one's in charge right now, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're probably not going to have any sort of being in charge anytime soon because he lost, one, by so much. Two, the amount of people that pulled him out or pulled McCarthy out of the speaker position was like 5 or 6 people that were able to call that vote. And then obviously the Democrats voted with it to remove him. Here, more people, and those people were MAGA people. Here, more people do not want to be with Jordan, like 25 to be exact as of today. And I don't think like it's definitely never going to happen at this point. Like I know I don't know who I was watching earlier, like saying they just did a new round of voting in private, and he lost by like 111 to 89 or some crazy shit like that. But I don't even know if that's a correct number, but it was significantly less. So his bid is done. But now they probably are going to do McHenry. Who knows? Like let him stay as interim speaker for a little while just so they can get stuff passed. But people as of today,
I'm not sure they can get the votes for that.
I don't think they can either. No,
I'm not sure that they can get the votes for even doing that. And I want to say before we move on, like the current like talking point from the Republicans is, well, this is Democrats' fault. They voted as the vast majority of people to knock out Kevin McCarthy. And it's like, that's complete bullshit, because y'all would never have done the same in the opposite scenario. Exactly. You wouldn't have voted to save Nancy Pelosi if they had that chance. You wouldn't have voted to save Hakeem Jeffries if they had 5 Democrats on a slim majority who were like, no, we're not going to let you be speaker.
He has the votes now. Give him 6 more votes if you're that serious about keeping the government open.
Sure. Agreed. But also, like, I'm just saying, it has never been the expectation of the other party when they are the minority to help the majority pick their speaker. Yeah. That's ridiculous. Like, they would never do that for us. We should not be doing it for them. And they should live up to their responsibility as elected officials to provide a speaker. If they can't do that, we've chosen an option. His name's Hakeem Jeffries. Feel free to jump on board. Yeah. But no one is owed a vote. No one's owed a vote, especially by the other party. That's ridiculous.
Give me 6 lame duck Democrats that can come in and just do it, or 6 people who have a backbone.
You mean Republicans?
Sorry, Republicans. Six lame duck Republicans who
there's
have a backbone.
Like 18 Republicans in the House who were in Joe Biden won districts, right? Like Joe Biden won their presidential district in 2020, but they won in 2022. Those people are people that we can target because obviously their districts aren't overwhelmingly red. Dude. So like, those people need to be being whipped by Jeffries, Pelosi, those kind of people right now, being told like, hey, you know what you can run on? Being bipartisan and actually keeping the government open, keeping things going. All you have to do is vote for Jeffries and then say, I will vote against everything he puts on the table unless it's an emergency. Like we need the functioning of government. I will still hold him accountable like I would any other speaker. I will likely not vote for most bills he puts on the floor, but at least there will be bills on the floor. At least we'll be trying to get something done. And I think that that's where the Democrats need to push now. Democrats need to be calling moderate Republicans in those districts and saying, you know, I'm definitely not going to vote for you if you don't keep the government open.
Right.
Yeah,
there's a guy I was listening to a few weeks ago on New York Times' The Daily. He's a Republican guy. His name is Tim. I remember that much. So I was like, oh wait, another Tim. But I wanted to hear his perspective because he's a Trump Republican more or less. But he's also said, and I've heard this from a few of these Republicans so far, that Nancy Pelosi knew how to govern. Like if she was in charge, none of this would be happening. Like maybe we should, like more or less, he didn't say we should have her back, but like we were doing better under that leadership. We clearly don't know how to govern. So much so that they are going as far as Jim Jordan called him when he was up for the speaker after Scalise. Yeah, that's how you say his name. Scalise was no longer viable because Trump yelled about him having blood cancer. So he's apparently not qualified. So I'm like, what the fuck? What an asshole.
Scalise, the Republican Job.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Who Scalise also who had said, I'm David Duke without the baggage.
Duke like without the baggage.
That is a thing, man. Jim Jordan's not even dumb enough to say something like that. But what? I mean, maybe he is. But well, because he's dumb enough to do what I'm about to say.
I'm Andrew Turner. I am Stalin without the baggage. Okay.
Yeah, right. Sure.
I'm Mao without the baggage, everybody.
Yeah.
Really anti-landlord. Not willing to go as far as Mao did, but Mao without the baggage.
Mao without his baggage has been lost in Spirit Airlines.
It was picked up by a bunch of crows that weren't killed.
Good Lord. So Jim Jordan, when he was finally up for speaker, he had his constituents start calling around like the hardcore MAGA people because one, we'll get to why he's unqualified, which we should have probably done at the beginning, but I just wanted to get to this specific thing first. He had his people start calling all of the holdouts and they start leaving death threats. They start calling, like one guy who was a Colorado Republican had been evicted from his offices in Colorado by the landlord who was mad over that vote. And then you start having, again, people calling and leaving death threats. And one specific was to a man's wife. And we're going to put that right here.
Why is your husband such a pig? Why would he get on TV and make an asshole of himself? Because he's a deep state prick? Because he doesn't represent the people? So what we're going to do is we're going to come follow you all over the place. We're going to be up your ass nonstop. We are now Antifa. We're going to do what the left does because your of a husband gets on TV. Oh, the bad guys, they did so. I'm going to vote for Kevin McCarthy, a piece of shit who everybody knows. And for his piece of shit ass to talk about Americans who are actually fighting for Americans as the bad people says everything about him. So you, your husband, and we're not like the left. We aren't violent, but we're going to follow your ass, every appointment you have, everything you do. Your husband's an asshole. You should talk to his stupid ass. We're at war. Israelis being killed, and your dumb husband is acting like a 2-year-old. No wonder. He's a warmonger piece of shit. So listen, you're going to keep getting calls and emails. I'm putting all your information over the internet now. Everybody else is, and you will not be left alone because your husband, Jim Jordan, or more conservative, or you're going to be molested like you can't ever imagine. And again, non-violently. You won't go to the beauty parlor. Now, you must be a bitch to marry an ugly mother like that.
So yeah, calling her and him a fucking pig, fucking like tirade lace. Thank you to CNN for bleeping all of that out. We used their cut of it. Please don't sue us. But
I love the whole like we're gonna come at you like Antifa.
We're not Antifa now.
Like, we're Antifa now. We're not like the violent left. Like, let's look into the FBI records of like right wing versus left wing terrorism and assault and murder over the past 30 years. You're gonna see like one shooting where Scalise was shot at that baseball field from a left wing terrorist.
Scalise, that's the guy I was trying to think of that got shot. Yeah, yeah.
And then the rest are going to be far right, like Klansmen, Nazis, far right extremists doing mass shootings, incels, all that follow right wing propagandists and politicians that are. It's just so silly that if you look at the actual numbers, like obviously the far right wing is much more violent than the far left wing, at least in the United States in the time period we're in. Like. This is what people believe on the ground. They believe like, oh, I can threaten you and threaten to stalk you because I'm fighting for America and patriotism and the real patriots. And all of you are deep state like traitors to the empire. And if that's the case, like then they're justified, right? Like if you truly believe, just like if you truly believe the election was stolen, then you feel justified in marching on the Capitol. Well, if you truly believe there's a deep state, like pro-Chinese, pro-communist, like Bolshevik Jewish cabal that's like taking down the American
space laser.
people.
Don't leave out the space laser now. Come on.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of money on that laser. The Rothschilds did.
I have every right to call my representative and tell them that I'm going to take drastic measures to prevent the downfall of America. Now, that's all ridiculous, audience. Like, all of that is ridiculous and not true. But they believe it. And if they believe it, they feel justified in taking actions like that. And normally it's been targeted on LGBTQ Americans, Jewish Americans, Muslim Americans, Americans with disabilities, Black Americans, Indigenous Americans, like people of color in general in America. But now they have the leopards will eat your face party is starting to eat other leopards' faces. Like finally, it is getting to the point that they have encouraged enough violence and done enough racism and homophobia and patriarchy and dog whistles that it's their own dogs are turning against them like Ramsey fucking Bolton. Like that is what is happening right now. Like the bastard of the North has been thrown into his own cell and he's locked in there with Jim Jordan and Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz and they're fucking fighting each other. And sorry, you lose. Like that's what happens. Your party becomes dysfunctional. Society moves around you and you become like the Whigs. And we can split the Democratic Party into a center left and far left party over the next 30 years. But if you can't govern, you don't deserve to govern.
Yeah.
And I hope your party dies out. I don't believe, like Nancy Pelosi, that we need a strong Republican Party in the United States. No, we don't need strong fascists in the United States. And the far right wing are fascists.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't need them. And like they, I think, are even themselves kind of realizing that, because a fuck ton of them, like around, I think 20, were camped outside Jordan's office wanting him to resign. Like, these are Republicans that were wanting him to resign over all of these death threats. And
we don't even have that many people asking for Bob Menendez or George Santos to resign.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, who's like stealing his staffers' babies. And I listen to, I don't trust this person for all that dumb shit. But goddamn, like, Jordan is just really stepped in it. And how he is now the front, like, it really, if you told me 3 weeks ago that Jim Jordan would have gotten 3 House votes to be speaker, I would have said, you're crazy. I even told my wife, that man will never, and I'm right to this day, but that man will never, ever, ever be speaker. Ever. He got he got close, but I was like, oh. Yeah. Like, I even thought the other day that Hakeem Jeffries was going to win it outright. Like, because it was just like, whoa, he's not, there's so many people voting and like, it's just, but it didn't happen.
I think Michael, our friend, is right. Like, it will have to be shut down past Christmas, and they will have to have pressure, and the moderates will finally give in and vote not. They won't even vote for Jeffries. They'll just show up during the next vote that's put on schedule, and they'll vote present. And they'll let Jeffries win through the majority. Like,
so if you vote present, then that's like...
it decreases the majority. It's saying, I don't care, so don't count my vote.
Oh, wow. Okay,
like, that's what it's saying. It's like, I choose not to take a specific speaker, so you can decrease the total majority.
Right.
And you need less votes then for either person if the majority is lower, right? So if Jeffries stays ahead of any Republican, if there's always 5 to 6 Republicans that won't unite behind their party, and then another 5, 6 Republicans vote present and all the Democratic caucus is there, Jeffries is going to win because he's already only behind by 6 votes. You know,
that's crazy. So like, I didn't know. So that's why they weren't voting present this whole time.
Right.
Like,
they're voting instead. They pick a random person.
Yeah, a random person. That one guy
so that
voted
they don't
for John
get blamed
Boehner
for allowing the Democrats to do this. That is the idea.
Yeah. I loved that somebody voted for John Boehner, a man who famously just hated this job.
Dude, I've heard pitched Arnold Schwarzenegger. I've heard pitched Donald Trump.
Yeah, he's been pitched.
I mean, like, there's been all sorts of pitched. George W. Bush was offered up. Like, great, let's get the war criminal in time while we're trying to talk to Israel about stopping
Much rather have
crimes.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
But I mean, like,
at least he knew how to govern.
I mean, like, at least Arnold Schwarzenegger and Donald Trump and George Bush, like, I guess have all been in government. So they're not like suggesting like Sean Hannity or something. But like, at this point,
don't put that out there. Damn it.
I hope someone's gonna give Sean Hannity the speakership.
Matt Gaetz is going to nominate Sean Hannity tomorrow. I'm with my fellow squareheads, like, because that's, God, dude, I need a squarehead count of the Republican Party, because I feel like there's a lot.
I think it's that they have more Neanderthal like lineage. Like, I think there's a very obvious, just like, or it may be the opposite. Like, the rest of us have enough Neanderthal DNA since they were the ones wiped out that we're more empathetic, and they're just more human, really, and psychopaths.
Right.
Like, maybe we just need to mix up the human, species a bit more. Instead of hunting down all our like cousins in the species line and destroying them. I don't know. Either way, I mean, the big heads do equate with right-wing tyrannic government, but that may just be like,
that's just a theory.
It may be like specific to our time period. This may be like a horseshoe theory. Like, but I think you have an interesting observation there. I will say, before we finish up with Matt Gaetz, though, we do need to bring up the nasty, gross, don't want to talk about it part. Not Matt Gaetz, excuse me. There is plenty of that with him. But
Jim Jordan? No. This is why. Yeah, we're now as we fade out of this episode of, like, just lunacy.
Trigger warning, sexual abuse.
There's a lot of tongues of sexual abuse, just general Nazisms, and this is why Jim Jordan should have never have been speaker. And people were told about, especially the first one. We're gonna go outright and talk about Ohio, but like, I remember the dumb asshole who wore the scarlet letter on her shirt when she went in. There's some congresswoman who voted to remove Kevin McCarthy. Like, I'm being ostracized as a Republican and a woman, so I'm wearing the scarlet letter. I'm like, tell me you haven't read the book.
But the name of the book is the Scarlet Letter, and she could have changed the letter to mean something else, like
anything
R,
else.
and you could have said, Republican is the new scarlet letter,
W,
right?
woman,
but
not A.
She kept which is for adulterer.
God almighty.
Read the book. Like, the reason it's a scarlet A is because you're an adulterer.
You add to the cliche that Republicans don't know how to read.
But
like,
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Or just simply don't read.
They missed the metaphor there. Yeah.
Okay, so Jim Jordan, first off, well, what did he do as a coach of Ohio State University? Wrestling coach. Assistant coach of Ohio State University. Andrew, do you care to tell the audience what they think got avoided as a speaker?
Yeah, I mean, there was 177 different individuals who accused one of the doctors at the Ohio State student university who took care of student athletes, sexual assault, all male athletes. And essentially, Jim Jordan's part in this is he was an assistant coach at the time, and he was one of many people in the athletics department that knew about this and covered it up or didn't mention it multiple times, dozens and dozens of times. I believe Jim Jordan was there for about half the time this happened with this doctor who was there. We don't need to mention his name. He killed himself in 2006. He's a piece of shit. And luckily, a lot of the victims have gotten compensated by the university. But Jim Jordan was never held accountable for just looking the other way, which is just as bad as doing it. If you know somebody is abusing people and you just go, well, it's too important to the university to show that, you're just as bad as the person doing it. If you have the power to step up and stop that, literally hundreds of people were sexually assaulted by this man.
Yeah.
And Jim Jordan looked the other way for at least dozens of them.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, same thing happened with, you mentioned a Speaker of the House earlier, the pedo Dennis. He was also I think a coach or something like that, or he worked at a private school. I don't remember what he was doing, but he would sit in there he would do all of it. It's something about Republicans is either wanting to cover up sexual assault, and Democrats too, but it's proportionally at this point. There's been
Democrats
so many
have sex scandals, Republicans have gay sex scandals.
Yeah, which is the funniest, most ironic and sad, because they can't just be them because their party hates them. We can't have a
gay sex scandal as a Democrat. It wouldn't be about that because everybody would be like, I don't care.
Well, what's his name back in the 90s?
Now. I mean, now.
Yeah, now.
I mean, now. It's not a scandal if if some Democrat has gay sex, gets caught doing it, and they're like, yeah, it's my private business.
Democrats
I
gay,
never said,
and we know.
Because there's no hypocrisy with it. Yeah, you're not making other people's lives ridiculously harder for doing the same thing you're doing.
Again, weirder if a Democrat or if a gay person is a Republican, like Peter Thiel. He's a libertarian, but that's a separate thing. An Ayn Rand libertarian.
I mean, different, it's like Pepsi versus Coke. They're both going to stain your teeth. I don't know what to tell you. They're both going to
or melt a tooth,
battery acid.
Melt a tooth in a cup over a week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's. God, we shouldn't drink that.
Shit sandwich, or shit sandwich with tomatoes.
I'm a
shit sandwich with marijuana legalization.
Yeah.
I want to repeal the age of consent. Libertarianism.
God almighty. Yeah, that's...
I forget who said it this week, but it was someone who said libertarianism can be defined... I think it was on Robert's show, the Behind the Bastards, but libertarian can be defined as someone who wants to... I want my child bride to get as much heroin as she wants. I think that's pretty accurate to modern libertarianism.
I was at a party once where some guy tried to argue with us about how the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment gives you the right to own a nuclear weapon as a citizen.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
So I was like, I could have one in my garage. I'm like, okay, fucking goatee beard. Not goatee. He's got one of those, all libertarians have a weird goat argument.
They know that. They know that's ridiculous. There's not a single person in the world who doesn't know that. They're just being a dick because they like trolling you at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the idea that everyone should have a nuke would mean we'd all already be dead. That's literally what you're advocating for. Do you not think one person would have set off their nuke by now?
Yeah, exactly.
We'd all be dead.
Lord. Yeah, but no, they're responsible nuke owners, responsible.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. So more Jim Jordan things. He is obviously he's a MAGA guy, an election denier.
Quick joke. Sorry, I have to interrupt you. Everyone is a responsible nuke owner except the United States at this point, technically speaking.
We're the only ones that haven't used one or that have used one.
Other than us. Cut to Oppenheimer face, just like
twice. I am become death destroyer of worlds. Yeah.
And they used the big bomb for bombing.
I didn't know they were going to do that. He did. Poor Oppenheimer.
Fuck Harry Truman.
Fuck Harry Truman. Absolutely. To the death of Harry Truman. Yeah, so Jim Jordan, last few bits, obviously an election denier, unless you didn't know that. Well, he is an election denier. And that's one of the reasons that the guy I mentioned whose office was evicted in Colorado, that's the only reason he won't vote for him, is because he is like, you need to say that Biden won the election. Like, stop saying that, like, he's like, no, we're over this, blah, 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 blah. He's a centrist Republican. I don't remember his name, but yeah, so that's one of the many things, not to mention he helped organize January 6th. And when asked about it, stammered like a goddamn, what do you call an auctioneer?
Yeah.
Like, so did you call President Trump
like
that
Porky
day?
Pig. Yeah.
No, I mean, I speak to him all the time. I spoke to him today. I spoke to him yesterday. I spoke to him on January 6th, I guess. I spoke to him, I don't know if it was after or before. I think I talked to him before, but like, whoa, Jim.
The Paul Manafort school of denial. Yeah.
Paul Manafort did you give money to Russia? I guess we did. I don't know. We did. We gave him money. That genuine impression. I can confidently say it's a solid impression of Paul Manafort. If you don't remember Paul Manafort, good for you, man. Because I assume that even more so with me, just because I'm more of a nerd. But with both of us compared to the average citizen, like I know who G. Gordon Liddy is. Do you know how sad that is? That like I am intimately aware. We also just watched White House Plumbers, but still.
Sure. And I listened to Behind the Bastards on him. They just came out yesterday, the last episode on it, I think. Yeah, 6-parter, and Robert dived deep into it. I highly recommend it. But like there's like, well, Dennis Hastert, example, like nobody remembers Newt Gingrich.
Yeah.
Like I know who these people are, unfortunately. Yeah. I wish I could clear out my brain and instead put more like Avatar: The Last Airbender trivia in there instead. But
I know my brain is all
fascists in my head.
Random fascist politicians and people I want to be president, and then planets in Star Wars, sometimes senators in Star Wars, where I start to get them mixed up.
Star Wars than me. Yeah.
That's my brain is just simply that. I'm like, oh yeah, no, they're a senator. Where are they senator of? Alderaan? Nope.
Fascism is my Star Wars.
Lothal?
Like I know
that's
more
also not
about
a real
fascists
place
than you, as much as you know more about Star Wars than me. But we both know a lot more than the average person. Yeah,
an allegory of fascism. It's how my brain processes all of it, because I hate it.
Bad guys in the first Star Wars trilogy are a metaphor for the United States versus Vietnam. Like straight up, like Lucas said that. Yeah.
We're going to say that on every episode just so you all remember. Because it weirds me out that people like watch Star Wars and especially Star Trek that are right-wingers. I'm like, how do you enjoy
Starship
this
Troopers?
show?
I don't get how people watch Starship Troopers and not get that it's a metaphor for fascism.
Oh,
and
I mean, knuckle crawler kind of folks that just, it goes right over their head. Like, but still,
V for Vendetta, you know, or like there's so many properties, or like Warhammer 40K. There's so many properties where right wingers are like, this is, or Homelander, like this is so cool and awesome. And I'm like, you are missing the point of the story.
Cops with the Punisher logo,
Do you think all that these Homelander's gonna win at the end?
Like, no,
of the boys.
Homeland, read the book. Well, don't read the book. It sucks.
Don't read the book. It sucks. Garth Ennis isn't great.
Yeah. Seth Rogen,
the show is better. The show is better. One of the rare times. Yeah.
I know. It's so crazy. But yeah,
well, it's more of a commentary on America and corporatism instead of a commentary on superheroes. Like Garth Ennis was writing about how much he hated superheroes. That's why he made them.
Oh, really? No.
Yeah. And the show is much more about corporatism in a world with superheroes. Yeah. What would actually happen if we had an America.
Which is great.
That's why they have Tucker Carlson and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's dead on. Like, I mean, purely dead. Like I can't imagine another, like if I had to imagine it myself, it would have just been that. Like there's no way around.
I mean,
it.
like
we would.
It's literally if I lasered a man on Fifth Avenue, like you know, like that is the idea of it. Instead of if I shot a man on Fifth Avenue.
Well, as
Jim
you can
Jordan
tell,
sucks. He's never going to be speaker.
Yeah, we don't care about him that much, and we feel like we've kind of wasted our time. We should just be talking about the boys instead. We should just do a whole boys episode. Why not?
We should do a boys episode. We should wait till the season starts. But yeah, we should do a boys episode.
Yeah. Oh wait, is the new season coming out?
Gen V's been great too.
Soon, or is it coming out after V?
Sometime in the fall. I don't remember when.
Well,
but yeah, Gen V I think ends before it begins.
Brought to you by Jeff Bezos. Great.
Yeah. I mean, ethical consumption under capitalism.
I know. Like I am grateful for Bezos for keeping the Expanse going.
Amazing,
and Critical
but it's owned
by
fucking Twitch and Amazon Prime. Like, you know, there's so many cool shit. That's what makes me most mad. We're ADHDing off topic again, but like about Musk, I'm like, you can be a piece of shit, rich, like authoritarian and still make good products. Like he doesn't even make good products.
I know, he's so dumb. Like how do you fuck up that bad? Like I still can't get it out of my head that he's either just that dumb or he's just doing it on purpose to do a big old troll.
It's the Glass Onion. It's the Glass Onion. It is a movie that is about him, and it is the ending point of that movie is about him. Like Miles Braun is an idiot. Like that is what is true about
that's
Elon
the
Musk.
end of the movie. Yeah.
Like what I've come to realize is we all thought that he was a torch genius, and in reality, Elon Musk is an idiot. Like, he's just a rich idiot.
Oh God, yeah. And that's all of them. And that's just all Republicans. It's all Democrats too. Not all of them. But
it's all rich people.
It's all rich people.
It's not all rich people. That's not true.
No.
It is a vast swath
of rich people. Some of them are good at doing it. Our Cubans.
The vast majority of them are either unempathetic or stupid or both.
Yeah. So that's your lesson. You know, here we are again. Capitalism sucks. Billionaires are bad. There you go, everybody.
Crazy. It's like there's a run through stream of the episodes. Yeah.
Jim Jordan bad, capitalism bad, and good night.
Night.
You've been listening to America the Conversation, a production of Shway Media and America the Podcast Presents. The show was created and is hosted by Tim Phillippe and Andrew Turner. The show's theme song is by Timmy Two Step, and all other music and sounds heard in this show were procured through the amazing companies listed in our show notes. America the Conversation is mixed and edited by Tim Phillippe at Shway Media Studios in Austin, Texas. For more information, please visit shwaymedia.com. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.
This has been a production of Shway Media, all rights reserved. For more information, please visit shwaymedia.com.